Welcome to Conversations with Character. I am here with Damizza Young, who has had the craziest career you could ever think of in the music industry. He is, in one way or another, directly or indirectly, behind all of the music that I grew up on, all of my favorite music today. You were just on No Jumper, what, 2, 3 days ago?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I watched that
It's all
podcast.
kind of a haze.
I watched that one. I watched some other ones, and they've really deep dove into your past and your highlights of your career and everything. But you also just got back on social media a few months ago, and you're skyrocketing. Your followers are going crazy. The content you put out is controversial, but it's what we need today. So I really want to hear about the career you had and the highlights and things like that, but also where your career is going now and where the music industry is going now, because I think that you have insight that no one else really has about the status of the music industry today.
You know what's interesting to me is you said some of it's controversial. When it's you, you can't see it. You see little responses here or there, and, you see some of the comments and stuff like that. But like this morning, I woke up and there was like 2,500 new followers, and I don't even know where they come from, and then I get these DMs and some people say this, say that, but, I don't see the controversial side of it sometimes. And then they also say that, there's a subreddit or something or a Reddit or something, and then some internet stuff going on and some YouTube stuff going on where they've put my clips in there. And I haven't seen them, so
Wow.
I don't know what's controversial and what's not. What did they say? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean,
But
you really speak on the AI involvement and the the way that the record labels are really trying to change the game right now to where
Yeah.
they're not paying artists at all.
No. It's really messed up. And, we were talking about, I was on vacation for about 5 or 10 years to take care of my grandma. But when she passed in January, I came back and I just started looking at everything. I'm like, this music business is all screwed up.
Yeah.
Like what happened in in that short span of time? And, it just seems like you're right. The record companies have kind of eaten themselves, but it's that infinity loop that I talk about. The record company releases to the DSP, and like a boomerang, the money comes back to the label. So when an independent artist is out there and starts to make some noise, the label goes to them, they make a faulty bank loan to keep them in debt so they can keep the money coming directly to them through that infinity loop. And, if artists don't get it together and band up and click up and fight this, then we're going to be in a situation where it's even worse. And the problem is we don't have a union. We don't have anybody to speak for us. So as artists, if, who's going to fight for us? The labels, the RIAA that's funded by the labels? I mean, there's nothing that advocates for the artist. So there's this huge space of discussion that needs to be had in the favor of artists. And I think that's kind of the niche that I'm hitting is people haven't really had a voice to do that. And one, it's easy for labels to discredit people. It's easy for the machine to discredit people. But when you've had the kind of success that I've had, thank God, and literally, I don't know how it happened, but, I got really lucky. And, I didn't realize until I got back some of the things that I did do. I had a conversation with Big Boy, and I went to go visit him, and we were walking out, and he goes, well, you built all this. And I'm like, well, we're in iHeart. I didn't have anything to do with iHeart. And he said, all of this. And he started just doing this. And I was like, hip hop? And he's like, you're the architect.
That's
and I was
amazing.
just like, as
Wow.
flattering as that is coming from a big boy, it's hard for me to grasp. But if you go back and look at my history, whether it be, just one, for instance, putting Dre and Snoop together for 2001, look at the ripple effect that caused through the time that I was doing it, working with Dre and the tour and Eminem and 50 Cent and Exhibit and D12 and, even going up to Easy Mill or any of the new artists, Kendrick, all of those, it created that platform.
Yeah.
And I really didn't realize that, I've had a hand in sculpting popular culture. You know what I mean? And when you do have that kind of thing, the labels can't argue with you. And that's been the most interesting thing to me, because when I sit down and I hit that button, I don't know what I'm going to say. I just hit it and go. I don't
Really?
think about it. fuck no. I just sit there. We can cuss, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. We just sit down and I just hit the button of whatever, I get a topic pops into my head, or I sit down, I just hit the button, I just rant and then post it. So I've looked for people to dispute. You know what I mean? Like, if I said something wrong, whatever. And then, I'll hit it and then I'll go, wow, did I really do that? Like, can I really say that? As a fan, you go like, yeah, you had a conversation with Dr. Dre, or you had a conversation with Eminem, or introduced Jay-Z and Eminem and Renegade happened, or, this, that, and the other. And, you look at it and you go like, yo, that can't be me. You know what I mean? And, but then I wait and it's like no one can dispute it. So when you're fighting the record company and the record system and those kind of things, a lot of those people I put in power. Like the CEO of Universal was my local promotion rep 30 years ago.
Wow.
Being like, so it's like, what is he going to do when I post his, email response to me on Instagram? Is he going to get mad? Or out of respect, can he even say anything to me about it? You know what I mean? Like, and vice versa. I'm not saying it as, I'm some badass or whatever. I'm just saying that it's when you earn this kind of, reputation and, whatever, you can say whatever you want. So, I mean, I'm really lucky that I can be an advocate for the music fan and be able to say the things that I do and have it undisputed. And literally colleges, there's actually a college, shout out to Joe Cat, there's a college in Austin, Texas that said, well, you said study the game and we decided to start with you, and literally wrote a 150-page thesis on up till now on my Instagram, and literally researched almost everything that I said to see if I was telling the truth, basically.
Wow.
And whether it's adaptable to the market today.
Wow.
And to have a thesis by a college written about your Instagram, it's a little weird.
Especially just coming back and reintroducing your world to this online world. It's
well, and even yesterday, like with the Lefty Gunplay thing, it was like, here he is on Bootleg Kev saying this, and the way I looked at it is my friend Charisma hit me up and said, hey, do you have a radio edit of that song you were talking about? And the next thing you know, it's being played, 2 times in, 10 hours. You know what I mean? So it's, and then all of a sudden, all these people are hitting me up. Can you help me get on the radio? I'm like, dude, like all I did was connected 2 people. You know what I mean? Like,
right. And that's really
been
what you've been doing your whole career is just connecting people. You've garnished relationships with people that make them trust you, and then you say, hey, this guy and you need to work together, and they do, and we have hit records that I've been singing in my head for 20 years now.
But I don't even realize I do it. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's kind of the craziest part for you, is you were such an integral part of the music industry, but you never really got your flowers then.
Oh. Because I never did it for flowers. Exactly. I did it for hip hop. Like, I don't give a look. The flowers thing. It's kind of an interesting double-edged sword. When I started posting these things, you have to remember, I started with 17,500 followers. Wow. And when I got back, I just started mentioning these things, and the artists that I were mentioning were reposting. Mm-hmm. And then I said, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take a page out of Fool's Gone Wild book, and we're going to do synergy marketing because I love what they do. Mm-hmm. And shout out to Fool's Gone Wild and Little Mr. E. Because they started the ball rolling. I mean, that one got the first 300,000 reposts or views. Or whatever, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. So, flowers, it is what it is, but it's more about me giving flowers so that people can see there's other people behind the scenes that make a bigger push in this business, and that's what I was saying about when I got back and saw the narrative. I saw the narrative that was only 3 or 4 people or a handful of people that did everything, and we're not them taking the credit, but they were the only ones receiving the credit because they had the loudest voice. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But I'm like, well, what about all these people behind the scenes that contributed? And somewhere along that way, people went, well, wait a minute, that you had a role in that. So they started giving me love on top of it. So it was great, and I'm appreciative, but I'm more appreciative that people are seeing the more, let me word it like this. A lot of kids today and a lot of artists today have looked at the image of hip hop and adapted it and said, okay, I got to wear the chains. I got to do this. I got to talk about this. And it's Molly and Percocet when they don't even do that stuff, but they think it's, what they got to do to get over it. Well, it's just because nobody's taught them. It's the mentorship. So if there's one thing that I can provide the most, it's mentorship. Yeah. And that's what this channel is all about.
Well, mad respect to that.
That's how I feel about the flowers is if you have enough respect and you've built enough of a reputation to be able to share knowledge, then it's your obligation to do so. And not everybody feels that way, and it's fine, but fuck them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like if your ego, everybody's afraid that their knowledge is going to fuck them out of a job. And I was talking to my buddy Montega, the mobster, last night, and we were talking about that, about just, how people are stingy with game, man, and I just love sharing it. Yeah. It's about that human, and that's what is screwed up about the music business today. We've lost the human contact. Are you a friend of 80s movies, or fan of 80s movies, by the way?
Sure.
Okay, Weird Science?
Oh, yeah.
In your race for power and glory, you forgot to hook up the doll. And that's the fucking music industry right now.
Absolutely.
You have a bunch of people that weren't the cool kids that all of a sudden are the cool kids because of their position. And they're going out there trying to create all of this new stuff, but they don't know how to do it. So they come and they find some people that are cool, that know how to do it. And then they push them aside at a very important moment saying, I know everything now. Yeah. And they don't execute properly. Yeah. And that's one thing that I have a problem with personally is, look, yeah, I have a reputation and I know what the fuck I'm doing in the business. But the problem is people want to take a little piece here and a little piece there and then say, oh, it didn't work what you said. Well, no, you didn't follow the directions. Your ego got in the way and you deviated from the path I gave you and said, you know better than me, and did it yourself. And then blame me when it didn't work. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it's just not. It's an interesting thing. I'm sorry I'm ranting on, but,
no, you're good, man. You're good. I want to hear it. I want to hear it all.
I have ADHD and all that kind of stuff that goes with it, so you can put that away, man. So it's kind of hard for me sometimes to stay on focus, so please forgive me.
Yeah, no problem.
But it also shows that people with ADHD, it also is the source of my creativity.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't sit in a fucking meeting. I can't put things on paper that's in my head. But if you just wind me up and let me go, I'll bring you back the fucking ball every time.
Yep. Just transcribe what I say. One thing that I haven't seen you speak on a whole lot, and it's a very much industry related, but it's also a very personal thing for you, and it's something that I could relate to. I saw a live stream that you did, I think, in 2018, and someone else had posted it on YouTube. And It was the first time that you were able to speak openly about the situation with Mariah Carey. And my ex-wife had severe psychological disorders. I had to put her in mental hospitals multiple times. And you talked about how, like, she punched and kicked you and it gave you PTSD. And I mean, that was my life. And I know the struggle of this person that you love and care about so much, just almost becoming someone else that they didn't realize it. So can you tell me a little bit more about the situation that led up to it, and then what happened on the hiatus?
Well, she was my best friend. And we were really close, and, whatever, I'm not going to get into the personal stuff, but, when you see somebody go through, and it's this business, you know what I'm saying? The business, the way that it attacked her, you have these extreme highs and in these extreme lows. So there's nobody in our business at that level that is weak, like Dave Chappelle said. There's nobody in this business at that level that doesn't work hard and isn't smart and, uber creative. But what comes with it is sleep deprivation and, bullying and all of this kind of stuff. And it can be too much and overwhelming for anybody. And, not even specific to her case, but just in general, I've never met an artist, including myself, that hasn't been affected mental health wise by this business.
Sure.
And, her situation, as personal as it was to her, which I don't really want to get into as far as her personal stuff, because that just wouldn't be fair to her. Sure. I love her to death. It was a very intense and tough thing, and it was even harder to walk away, but it was for the best, and I did what I could in the moment. And I think that also partially was a little bit of the hiatus. It was mostly about taking care of my grandma, but sorting through what I had been through in that short period of time, because there were some very trauma-based real situations, like similar to what you went through, and the cycle of having to help her get care, but it not being as effective because it was early and that kind of stuff. So it was difficult. But, when you love someone and you care about someone, you do whatever you can. And that's just the space I was at the time.
Sure.
And, it's sad that we couldn't remain friends after that because, basically she was mad that I left. So it just is what it is. But, I love the girl to death. I think she's an incredible artist. She's very smart. And it was very hurtful, the reaction from people. You know what I mean? Like, when I wrote the book or whatever, I never put out a press release or something or said, this is about Mariah Carey and a tell-all. But anytime you have something in it, people want to tear it down. They want to find the culprit in everything. You don't know, and especially when you're talking about those core fan base. So to watch people say the things that they were saying about me at the time, and I was drinking heavy at the time because it was difficult to get through that stuff. So that interview in particular, that post was, I don't think, I regret that. Yeah. You know what I mean? I shouldn't have discussed it, but, I wanted to be open. And the first thing about me and what happens in my life, I am open about, because I want to help people. I want them to learn from it, or I want to learn from it. So, it just was what it was, but I love that girl.
Sure.
So I don't really know if that's the right answer to the question, but it was the first time that I discussed it, and it was only when everything came out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'd never have discussed anybody's personal business that wasn't already public knowledge or out there, unless it was my truth and I was discussing it, which most times I'll say redacted, which is somebody that, I'll just say the word redacted, you know what I mean, instead of their name.
Sure.
And with redacted, it was, it was difficult.
Yeah.
But I love the girl, and I only wish her the best.
Yeah, I think you made that clear on that live stream. I don't think that it seemed like an attack on her in any way. And the fact that,
well, the fans kind of took it that way.
I know there were some people asking some questions, but you were making it clear, like, this is me. This is my story. For the first time, I think you said it was 5 years that after it happened, that was the first time you got to talk about it. That's cathartic. That's therapeutic. That's, I can't imagine having to keep my mouth shut about everything that I experienced for 5 years after it all happened. I mean,
well, but you're dealing with, people's health care.
Yeah.
And you're also dealing with a very private situation. And if I really went into what happened, it wouldn't benefit anyone.
Right.
You know what I mean? Except for make the case cheapened. You know what I mean? Like, or not cheapened, but the situation was very real and life-threatening. Yeah. So, there's nothing to brag about in that situation. There's nothing to, say, well, oh, I did this or I did that. That's not something you really discuss. But I got so inundated that I felt, so attacked that I just kind of just said, look, I'm just going to tell you my side to get this over with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it, there was a couple records that she put out that she made a point to let me know that was about me.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, look, if you're putting this stuff out and you're saying this stuff, like, come on, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I'm trying to be cool here, but, Right. Yeah.
Like,
but I also have to remember that she's, her mental health is, you don't know what she's thinking. Yeah. So if she's lashing out and saying these things, then is she okay? And I don't want to respond to stuff that may not have been meant because she's just having an episode. You know what I mean? But I tried to be as caring as possible and do as much as I could. And I guess, it is what it is. Yeah. But with all relationships, past relationships, whether ex-girlfriends or friends or whatever, they don't always end up the best way. And there's two sides to every story. But when you're dealing with a rabid fan base like her lambs, and I mean that in a good way, they support the living daylights out of her. Anybody that they feel is infringing upon the queen is the enemy. So... it's a lot of the things they were saying that were unfounded, but if they really knew what I had done to save the queen, you know what I mean? They'd probably be like, damn, thank you. You know what I mean?
Right. You're the reason why we have her still. I mean...
but I just always try to be there for everybody, and I love everybody, and I'm grandma raised me to be a decent human being, so there's no ill will or ill feelings towards any human being, period. I mean, I've had friends that have said to me, like, why do you still fuck with me? I did this to you, you know what I mean? Like, or whatever, because this industry just makes you act out of pocket sometimes. This industry is what I like to call 5 Points, Texas, which is a movie set on the back lot of Universal Studios where you could shoot it from any angle, and there's a saloon, there's a sheriff, there's a what's it called on every street. And that's what music is it's 5 Point Texas of all emotions. You have, happy, sad, you have drugs, you have alcohol, you have influence, you have ego, you have all of these emotions are wrapped up into a ball. Dreams, success, failure, everything is in the music business. You know what I'm saying? So it tends to make you act a certain way, but that's also why I don't really consider myself a member of the business. You know what I mean? I've never had to, pick a pill or go through a door, or the Illuminati has, had a meeting and said, hey, do you want to? No, they always just knew better. You know what I mean? I was my own island. I don't need them. I don't need anything. Do you know what I'm saying? Except for to just be true to myself. And that's the saddest thing that I see in artists is they think that one opportunity is going to be the only opportunity. So then they go off and they sell their soul, which you don't need to, it
literally
just
sell your soul.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. But it's the offer's been there, but I obviously did double of whatever they were offering. You know what I mean? I did it on my fucking own. So you don't have to. You know what I mean? And that's also why the business is so fucked up, is because the ones that did sell their soul, they can't mentor because they're plants. Yep. They don't know what made them famous. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying?
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
So I'm the anti. I'm the Illuma Mizzanati. You know what I mean? The Mizzanati.
Hell yeah, bro.
I mean, and that's the funny thing is, a couple people hit me up in the DMs and were basically asking, am I the Illuminati because of all the things that I've done?
Wow.
And maybe I am. Maybe I am the Illuminati.
You just don't know. No one told you.
Saying? But not in a bad way. I'm the good version of it. I'm the balance in the force. Call me Luke Skywalker, motherfucker.
Damizza Skywalker. That's cool, bro.
I'm the balance in the force, player.
Yeah. Hell yeah. So you take this hiatus and you come back 5-10 years later. And I think one of the biggest changes for you when you came back to the game was during COVID, recording equipment got cheap.
Yeah.
And the whole world bought an interface and a mic and downloaded a DAW. I mean, the amount of music making artists has to have quadrupled or more in the last 4 years.
Well, before we get there, I just noticed the symbols in the background of your thing, and I want to apologize to you just in case you are the Illuminati.
Someone told me I should take that down because people think I am.
But I'm sorry, and it was great talking to you. No, things got cheap, and everything got put back in the box, and the collaboration and the collaborative effort went away. And that's where the problem is the key to the game. And everybody get your pens and piece of paper, because you've probably heard this one before, but consistency and repetition breeds familiarity. Familiarity breeds a relationship. A relationship breeds teamwork or synergy, and synergy wins games. If you consistently work out, you get bigger. If you were only lift one side, you'd be lopsided. So you consistently and repeatedly have to do a balanced workout to create success. And a lot of people don't have the patience for that. So it's just about consistency and repetition. And in this world that you're talking about post-COVID with the meetings, Zoom meetings and all of that, it's gotten away from what music is, which is a collaborative effort. They get together and do what James Brown would call jam. You know what I mean? Like you play off of the guitar player, you play off of the drummer, you play off of these things and write the lyrics together. And then, you know, every artist has to have a fan. Every fan has to have an artist. A guitar has to have somebody to play it. A player has to have a guitar to play. It's synergy with your equipment. It's synergy with everything. But when you're just sitting in a box making stuff and you just throw it on a DSP, well, where's the excitement? It's gone. You know what I mean? You can't say, yo, you listen to the radio and someone says, yo, I got the new song from, you know, the homie Bams and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. This is who he is. Da-da. Oh, shoot, we're going to hear the interview. We're going to go, oh, wow, that record's crazy. Where can I find it? And it sends you down a rabbit hole of a journey of finding music and that you know, Christmas morning feeling, or, you know, whatever it is that you enjoy about music. We're not, sorry about that. We're not getting that from DSPs. There's no excitement going with that. So we've got to get back to a place where we work together. And yeah, the equipment is cheap, but so is crack. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not doing crack.
Absolutely. And as you know, the former program director of Power 106, Hot 97, when at the time when radio was the most influential tool in music, what do you think about the status and the power of radio today?
Well, we're back to 97. Do you know what I'm saying? Because radio wasn't that. It was, but it wasn't, you know, in rap. Because rap was not the number one format in the world. And a matter of fact, they said it was going to be over. You know what I'm saying? Right. They said that, you know, rap is done. You know, I mean, they said, you know, when Napster came out, the music business is done. You know, when I tried to put Dre and Snoop together, they said they're done. Look at the Aftermath and the Firm album. You know, you put that white boy on stage, you're fired. You know what I mean? All of that kind of stuff. But, you know, it comes back to that passion. And, you know, at the time, radio in 97, you know, wasn't breaking rap artists. It just wasn't. But when you let a rabid hip hop fan in a radio station, this is what happens. You know what I mean? You know, so it's just reverted back to 97 to me, as the game is wide open right now. You know, it's just perfect timing, especially for me, because, you know, I don't have to do it again from a credibility standpoint, for instance, but I'm getting this weird resistance. It's kind of a, you know, it's like, oh shit, he's coming back. What's he going to do? You know, will we have a job if he does? No, I want to help you extend your fucking job. I'm not trying to take your job. You know what I mean? But it's been a fight. It's been a fight. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then getting the new generation to know who I am. You know what I mean? Like Lefty said in the interview yesterday with Bootleg Kev, you know, I didn't know who this guy, or I don't know who this guy is, but I'm getting who this guy is. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's kind of, let me reintroduce myself. My name is Mids. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's got to, you know, you got to, and people are kind of like, well, if you've got the magic wand and you're Damizza, then you can just make me a star. You know what I mean? No, it doesn't work like that. Sure. It's, you know, you know, if Lefty Gunplay didn't do the 4 or 6 months worth of work to get to that point, then I could not have broken that record on radio. I couldn't have said the things that I said, and then he have the credibility and I have the credibility, and even what I've been doing on social media to be able to say those things, because no one in radio of this new generation knew who I was.
Yeah.
So when I made that comment of, yo, you're playing yourself if you're not playing these 2 records, and shout out to Coyote, if you're not playing these 2 records, people had to go and dig in the files and say, who is this guy? You know what I'm saying? Like, or when I've made comments sometimes on my Instagram, they're like, oh, the one I enjoy, you know, is, you don't know what you're talking about. You're white, blah, 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 da, 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 all this kind of stuff. And then, whoops, sorry, Miz, I Googled you. You know what I mean? Like, and that's my favorite response. Google me, bitch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
seriously, though, it's amazing when you Google your name. I couldn't believe some of the stuff.
Shout out Miles Gaines. That's all I'm going to say there. Okay. But anyways, go ahead.
Dr. Dre calls you back in the day and brings you to the studio. And
isn't that weird even to fucking say?
Dude, I can't believe I'm saying it to somebody who Dr. Dre called. It's, I mean, I can't tell you, I'm
the guy who picked up the phone and I don't fucking believe it. But go ahead.
So Dr. Dre calls you, you go to the studio, and there's a white boy in the booth recording My Name Is, and he asks you, you know, how do we put the white house? At his house.
Dopest fucking studio in his house.
God.
Like, you know, you got to be an engineer to know, but he had an SSL G Plus, which is the craziest freaking console and a tape machine, a 48 track, you know, or 24 track Studers in his freaking den.
That's so crazy.
You know, with the big speakers and everything. You walk in and it's just like boom, boom. And then I look over and there's this little white kid in the booth, and he's like, Slim Shady, you a bass head. And I'm like looking at him going like, why is he talking like that? And I looked at Dre, I was like, you're letting the white boy write for you? And he's like, yeah, he's writing a part for me. And I was like, wait a minute. What's going on here?
Right.
And he's like, I need to talk to you. And I said, wait a minute. So you signed the white boy? And he's like, well, Miz, how do I break the white boy? And I'm like, okay, you tell me the story of NWA from beginning to end, and I'll break the white boy for you. And that's just how it happened. You know, I sat on his washer and dryer. He sat on his stairs, and we sat there till like 6 o'clock in the morning. And he told me every freaking detail from the world-class wrecking crew all the way up to where we sat with Eminem. And Eminem starts coming out about 6 o'clock in the morning. He's like, dude, you guys have been out here too long. I've been waiting. You know, I'm out of here. And I'm like, no, you're going to Power 106 and see the Baker Boys. You're going to play that record, and we'll see you tonight at Friday Night Flavors. And then I went back to work, and there's the white boy on the air with the Baker Boys, and I didn't clear it to my boss. So she was a little upset, and she, you know, because I was kind of new at the time. And she's like, look, you know, if you put that white boy on stage tonight, you're fired. Like, Dr. Dre's over, and didn't you ever hear about Vanilla Ice? Like,
Right.
And it's Friday Night Flavors 10-year anniversary. You got Gangstar with Primo and Guru, rest in peace, Guru, you know, performing with Dub C and Coolio. You know what I mean? Like, you know, the white boy, like, what are you doing? So I literally, the next morning after he did it, the next morning I was literally packing a box, you know, getting ready to leave. And, you know, she stuck her head in and she goes, you're lucky that white boy killed it. Where's the record? You know what I mean? Like, don't ever do that again. You know, and you think about those, what if I just said, you know what, I don't want to get fired.
Mm-hmm.
And said, I can't help you with Eminem. Or even take a step back. You know, when I wanted to put Dre and Snoop back together, I got a call from Jimmy Iovine that said, you know, hey, what are you doing? You know, a producer that doesn't produce and an artist that I haven't seen since Death Row. Right. And I've got a bill on my desk for $250,000 for promotion that I'm hearing on the radio, but I don't have a freaking record. Wow. And I'm trying to sell the contract. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, if I don't get a record, you're responsible for this $250,000.
Wow.
And I'm just like, you know, who cares? I'll go down in flames to make this happen. Yeah. So, you know, it was really an interesting time and very surreal. But to get that call and see M and then watch the story, and, you know, and they were always so great to me. I mean, M did like 5 shows for me for free.
Wow.
You know, looked out. And, and I was always kind of like that older brother kind of to him, where if anything would happen and, he'd call me up and be like, hey, what's this? What's that? And it was really cool. And, I went to his house in Detroit. I introduced him and Mariah, which was my screw up, but, it was what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, if somebody called you today, like Dr. Dre called you then, and you wanted to put this artist on, what platforms would you use? Or is there a platform that is capable of that anymore?
What's crazy, bro, is I always felt that Power 106 was my power.
Yeah.
But I realized that I was the power in Power 106. I am the platform. So if there is momentum to be had, like with the Lefty Gunplay, that's what that proved, is I could still make a call, and not literally a phone call, but a call and say, this is what needs to happen. And it happens.
Wow.
So, I've been very, very lucky to be this hip hop platform in myself.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, absolutely.
So I'm building it.
Yeah.
My social media, I'm trying to get this app built, but, that's another part of it is, dealing with investors and trying to get the funding for this and do all of this kind of stuff. I'm not your average guy. You know what I mean? So it's kind of hard to articulate what I'm going to do and what's in my head. So it's even harder to put the business plan together. Sure. Back then they hired me to do a job as the music director of Power 106, and they thought they could keep me in a box, but I went nuts and did all of this other stuff. And I would, it empowered me with a platform to be able to do stuff. But now I've got to kind of try to figure out myself how to do it.
Yeah.
But I am that platform, luckily. But as the followers grow and the conversations keep going, then I'll develop a new platform that can break more artists, that has a bigger bandwidth and that kind of stuff. And I'll be able to do more for other people. But right now, I just don't have, one source to say, okay, go over here and make it happen, or go over there. And, the door is kind of small, bro. It's not like you can just, say, hey, you think how many A-list artists are there out there right now? There's probably 5 in the world,
right?
So it's easier to get into the NFL or the NBA or any of these. Every year 30, 40, 50, 100, whatever it is, the number is the people that get drafted or new people that get to go in. I mean, there's more opportunity in professional athleticism than there is in the music business. There's only 200 or 100 slots on the Billboard Hot 100, and there's a lot of duplicates there.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And you're dealing with the record companies. So, when I do have the right platform and the right investment to be able to do what I'm going to do, then, it's going to be a new business. And I think that's also what the record business is a little afraid of.
Yeah.
So, that's why sometimes I, get a little bit, touchy and say some shit about, hey, motherfucker, like, say that again.
Yeah.
Fuck around and find out.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, but, I'm the Dr. Dre of radio, so there's not really much you can tell me about it.
Yeah,
you know what
absolutely.
I mean? So it's a process right now, and I'm finding those paths. And I'm just blessed that artists like a Lefty or, Poon, who brought me to No Jumper, or, the people that are following have entrusted me with the keys to hip hop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm also kind of, what's interesting to me is a lot of people have reached out, but there's some people that have just been really silent. And kind of interesting to me, the ones that have been silent, that haven't said welcome home, or that haven't said this. And to me, hearing their little narratives that are coming out of their camp, it's like, wow, that's the way you feel. Like you're nervous about this.
Yeah. Like
you want to know what I'm going to do before I do it. Like,
well, you can change the game. I think you're one of the first people that have come up.
We're doing it. That's what's fucking crazy is off my Instagram, I hear the changes.
Wow.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like things that I've said, or people will call me or hit hit me or DM me and say, literally, they saw someone in power at a label or a radio station, I'm not going to say exactly who, watch my video and then sit down and send out an email saying, this is what you need to do, like it was something that they thought of.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's what's crazy is I'm literally looking at, okay, let me ask you a question. How many records have come out in the last 2 months compared to the last 5 years I've been gone?
I have no idea.
There's a lot of records that are coming out, and and one person said to me, for instance, dude, you gotta remember how many people have had a hit since you left.
Yeah.
Like, how many of those artists? So now they're all dropping records in hopes that you'll see in platform.
Wow.
Do you know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying, that arrogantly or which artist it is, but, I mean,
it's impactful. What you're doing is already impactful.
When people look, Dr. Dre, Eminem, Snoop Dogg, all of these guys were broken at a pop level and made radio artists off the Damizza platform.
Yep.
That's no secret.
How much can you tell me about the app?
About that.
About the app?
About that.
Oh, okay. All right. Can I tell you
That's about as much as I can tell you.
Can I tell you about an app that I've actually been working on? The developers, they developed an app. It's called MuseIQ, Empowering Artists.
Oh, dope.
It's a new music streaming platform. It's on, Apple, Android. But it's not a pay-per-stream platform. A huge problem in the music industry right now, as you know, is the bot numbers. It's impossible to go to someone's Spotify and know for sure that those numbers are real. There's going to be there are 3 subscription tier levels for MuseIQ. It's always free for artists. We will never charge an artist to upload or to do anything. The 3 different tiers are silver, gold, platinum, and the only difference between the subscription packages are the amount of validations that come with each. And a validation is $1 out of your payment that you can assign to any artist that you want every single month.
That's dope.
So the silver comes with 1, gold comes with 5, the platinum comes with 10 validations. And you're able to comment on songs. You're able to message not just the artists, but users back and forth. You're allowed to share playlists and things like that.
So it integrates some social media, Spotify, all of that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
You share to other DSPs too?
Okay, yes, you can share. It's an independent distribution. Like, you can't get a song on MuseIQ from DistroKid. But you can put a song that's on MuseIQ on any other streaming platform that you want.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. How far have you rolled it out?
Oh yeah, no, it's out. It's available. We're still in the beta phase right now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's actually.
Will you send me the link so I can check it out?
Absolutely.
Or have it sent to me and I just haven't looked yet like a dipshit?
I'm sorry. What was the last thing you said?
I said I'm a dipshit if you've sent it to me already.
I can send it to you.
Yeah, please. I said what I'm saying is I apologize if you sent it to me.
Oh no, not yet. I wasn't even sure if I was going to talk to you about this, but
please do. I mean, I want people to look at everything because, like I've always said, I may not be the one that changes the world, like Tupac said, but I will inspire the mind that does.
Hell yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And if you have something that's going to benefit artists and not extort them, and you seem like a very cool guy that I've talked to so far, like, fuck, do it. You know what I'm saying? Promote that shit. Use me. You know what I mean? I want people to see it.
I'd love to connect you with the developers. They're out in Denmark. They're awesome people.
Well, as far as the app thing goes, as soon as I find the $10 million credit line I've been looking for with the right investment person, because I've had the offers.
With the right investment person, that's the key.
I've had the offers, and one person offered me $5 million to just stay out of it. I was been offered $5 million to not get into the digital space because they did not want to compete with me.
Well, you're doing something right then.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to the music business, my friend. Welcome to the music business.
I think that the music industry is absolutely, not just the music industry. I think the general population is now seeing the bullshit that the streaming platforms represent to artists.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's going to be something like a new app that you're working on, something like this Music IQ, that is going to be a game changer? Or do you think it's going to be like several new platforms?
It's hard to explain, because I don't know yet. There's still, the way that I'm looking at it right now is music is like the globe. There's all these continents that are floating out there in water, but it's fragmented. And what's happening is the globe is starting to shrink. And I think a lot of those continents are starting to come together. Will they lock in and fit? I don't know. But I think that a new wave of something crazy is coming. And if I do fuck around and find this right investment thing and do this the right way, dude, it literally going to create a new music business.
Yeah.
That's beneficial and run by artists.
And that's what we need. That's absolutely what we need right now.
Yep.
What do you consider your proudest accomplishments? And I mean, you have platinums on platinums on platinums, but I think that it's probably something more, discreet than that. What's your proudest accomplishment?
That I took good care of my grandma till the day she passed.
Mad respect.
When I was a little boy, I was abandoned on her doorstep at a year old. And my mom was a drug addict. My dad was a biker. And my grandma said, this child is mine from that moment forward. And when she said that, years later, I said, you take care of me now and I'll take care of you then, which she would never hold me to. But, when she fell and I quit everything because I wanted to take care that, duty, loyalty, respect, honor, these are not words that I play with. You know what I'm saying? They're staples. They're pillars in my life. And when Granny fell, I said, everything else can wait, because I have this commitment to myself, not even to her, that I would take care of her. So I spent the next 10, 20 years literally 24 hours a day taking care of this woman. And, she changed my diapers. I changed her Depends. She gave me a bath. I helped her in the shower. Yeah. That's the way that I look at it. And I had the greatest last 5 years with my best friend in the middle of nowhere. It was a huge house, 12 acres. My friend Bams would come back and forth, or, my brother Bams, I'd have other friends. His dad would come, and C would come, and, Swavey, and, everybody, Savvy, I'll call him. But, everybody would come and visit, but it was just me and Granny, and it was like I was a kid again, and I learned the history and, just got to just hang. And every day was about just making sure she was cool. So I didn't really see what was going on with the business. I never thought about the business. It was about her. And my greatest accomplishment in life was just being there for her and returning that favor. And that's all it was about. And that's all it is about. And, if I were to die tomorrow, yeah, I had some great success in the music business, but I took care of my fucking mom.
God damn it. Hell yeah, man. I got goosebumps while you tell me that.
And I just wish there was more people that thought like that. Honor and respect of your elders and mentorship and just logic. You know what I mean? Like, what's so crazy? The biggest facade that we live in today, or the biggest bullshit, is the fact that we believe that everything that we read or see on social media is true. No, these narratives are being pushed out by these huge companies and these big media. It's WWE, the same company that does the lighting for WWE, does it for, the political rallies, who does it for, the touring apparatus of artists, and so on and so forth. It's all a myth. When you and I have a conversation, we're straight. Like, we don't talk like that. We're not spinning these narratives and putting ideas in people's head that they parrot back out to people on social media. These things don't exist. These bots and these fake things and AI and all this kind of stuff, they create dissension. They create things to separate us so that the narrative can be whatever benefits corporate America. And that's what we're fighting against. And I think it's more important that we have these conversations and we interact as humans, going back to what you said about, making stuff in your room on music and not, sharing and da-da-da-da-da. It's more about that collaborative effort. And that's, I don't know. I'm sorry to go off on a rant,
No,
but
it's
that's
fine. I mean,
more what it's
and
about.
speaking of the narrative and the distractions, this Kendrick, J. Cole, Drake beef right now. First of all, what's your take on it, and compare it to the beefs that you saw in the '90s?
Oh, there is no comparison.
Yeah.
I lived through the death row era, and literally Biggie was sitting in my office the morning before he got shot, the morning he got shot. It was that Friday morning, and he was dead that night at midnight. You know what I mean? Or whatever time it was, just after. So it was the Saturday, but it just was by clock. It wasn't, it was literally I was literally probably the last person to record a Biggie verse. He was doing the Baker Boys morning show, and he did a freestyle in the studio, and there was no one to record it. So he's like, "Hey, Lil D, come here, record this for me." You know what I mean? And I saw one of his bodyguards some years later, and he was like, "You're the last person to record Biggie." Wow. And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "You were the last person to produce a Biggie verse." And I was like, "How's that?" And he goes, "Well, we went back to I was his bodyguard, and we went back to the hotel after he left Power 106. He took a nap, we got ready, and we went to the show. So he didn't record after that."
Wow.
And I was like, wow. So, it was that time and that space was a different thing. And, from the time that I started at Power 106, I was trying to erase that. And, someone that deserves a lot of credit is Snoop Dogg. Mm-hmm. And I had Biggie and Puffy show up at a Flavor Jam that Snoop and the Dogg Pound were performing at. And Biggie was out there doing Crush on You because we didn't know he was coming, so we didn't have any Biggie records there. We didn't have Juicy there.
Wow.
And, they played Crush on You because it was kind of a, current single at that point. And Biggie had written it. So him and Little C's walk out on stage and start performing that record. And Snoop Dogg came out and just started dancing. And in that moment, you felt no tension. It was the East-West beef was done. It didn't exist. You know what I mean? Because you had Snoop and Biggie on the same stage right there. And then, some time later, Jay-Z called me and said, I know that sounds weird, but Jay-Z called and said, "Hey, can you get Snoop Dogg to come and do Summer Jam with me?" And I said, "Hold on." And called him, put him on three-way. And that was, the end of that you ever heard of the East-West beef at that point. It was over.
Yeah. You talk about like you were basically Switzerland of the rap game back then. I mean, you told a story on one that Eminem and Ja Rule are playing pool together at one of your parties. Yeah. That's so wild, man. What do you remember about the Eminem Ja Rule beef?
I just remember that it was silly. You know what I mean? Like, what I was hearing at the time and all this kind of stuff. And, there was a situation where Ja Rule and Snoop were about to go at it. And I heard the rumblings, and I literally, the second I hung up the phone when someone told me, I picked up the phone and called the airline, and I booked a flight to New York. And I didn't even tell Irv and them that I was coming. It was like a Friday afternoon, and I just walked into Def Jam offices and walked into Irv Gotti's office, and I turned the phone around, and I said, "This is not happening." And he's like, "What?" And I said, "You guys about to go?" He goes, "Well, Snoop said this, and Daz said this, and Ja said this." And I'm like, "Nope." And I just picked up the phone. I said, "Snoop, this is Irv. Irv, this is Snoop. Let's dead this right now." And they talked, and then Ja called me and said, "I heard that you and Irv and Snoop said." And I said, "Nope, hold on a second." And I called Snoop and put him on three-way. And afterwards, Snoop said to me, he goes, "You really care about this hip-hop shit, huh? You're really not going to let this go down that road again, right?" And I said, "Exactly, boss." Wow. Exactly. Wow. You know what I mean? And I mean, after, we talk about PTSD and all this kind of stuff, but after, sitting there talking, to Biggie in my office, and then, watching him pass that night, it was like, yo, like, what is the point of this? You know, there's no gang banging. There's no, you know, this, that, and the other that would be, you know, responsible for this, you know, thing. Like, this is a young kid who was just telling me about how he just got back together with Faith, and he's gonna go see his kids, and you know how happy he was to be in California because of the women and the weed and the, hey, you know, I want to drive up to Santa Barbara sometime. You're from Santa Barbara, right? Tell me about it. What's up with the palm trees, and what's the best restaurant? I mean, he's like 24-year-old kid, bro. You know what I mean? That had his whole life ahead of him. And to hear those stories and see that, I was just not going to let that happen again. You know, and even like with this stuff, I'd stand in front of the bullet before I'd let it hit another rapper. You know what I mean? Like if I can, then let's make it better, bro. You know, I love the competition of the Drake and Kendrick thing. I love the feel of the Melly Mel, LL Cool J vibe of it, and not the Death Row era of it. Yeah. Because the Death Row era of it, and that era in Los Angeles, it was hot. You know, if somebody said something, you got, right. You know, someone with a gun popped up 30 minutes later. You know what I mean? Like, you know, so my whole thing was to create an environment where people could talk. And we not one time at a Power 106 event while I was there did we have an altercation, even an altercation. Wow. And I would have backstage this one time a year at Powerhouse, everyone would get together and everybody was welcome. The artists, bring your entourage, bring your set, bring your, you know. So I'd have Essays, Bloods, and Crips all mixed up in the backstage at Powerhouse. And I would literally say, you know, hey, you need to meet you and you need to, and I would look for those things like, oh, so-and-so's having a problem, you know, with his camp and this person. Okay, well, let me bring you two together. So yeah, Ja Rule and Eminem backstage at Powerhouse, you know, we're not having a problem. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't about that. The one night a year, everybody knew that anything from the outside got left at the door. So I literally had Suge Knight partying up in the suite while I have Snoop performing downstairs, you know, on stage, you know, and neither of them had a problem, you know, because it was the business party and, you know, all the guns are left at the door. You know what I mean? So for that, you know, night, everybody got along. Yep. You know, and that also has been kind of my claim to fame, you know, or you know, and I got that from just living at Granny's house, because Granny's house was Switzerland in Santa Barbara. Like you could have, you know, this person from this set and this person from this set, but when they got to Granny's house, they would literally be sitting across the table, eating with each other, and then pick their shit up on the way out. Wow. You know, it's Granny's house. We cool. Wow. Like, we don't have to like each other, but we're sure as not going to, you know, disrespect Granny's house. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not what happens, bro.
She sounds like an incredible woman, for real.
Oh, she was. And she is. Her spirit is, you know, what drives me every day, you know, and the success that we're having, to think that it's not her would be crazy. Yeah. You know what I mean? You know, I mean, everybody who knows me knows Granny, you know, and that's another thing that I'm very proud of. And they know that my intentions are good. I may stray from between the shot and the aim, but, you know, I always hit the target, and I always do it from a place that's meant well. You know what I mean? I don't mean to do anything. I've never screwed anybody over. I've never accepted payola. I've never been intimidated. You know, it just is what it is. I'm not that guy. I'm not your industry guy. I'm not an industry plan. I'm a regular guy that loves music, that happens to have a lot of influence in the music business because of those reasons. Yeah. Because I never became the Illuminati, because I never did this, I never did that. I would not be bought. I would not be intimidated. I would stand up for myself and say, fuck you. This is right for the music. You know, it's funny. Someone was asking me about J-Lo and Mariah, right? And yeah, I'm Real got stolen from Mariah while I was basically managing her on a record that I produced with her and Ja. So yeah, when Tommy and J-Lo stole that record, it not only did I produce it, but I was also managing the principal, basically. Wow. You know what I mean? So it was a situation where I'm at radio. They bring me I'm Real and say, you know, are you not going to play this record because of the politics involved? And I said, look, the politics are outside. Is it right for the radio station? Yes. So I'm going to play that record, at least give it a shot.
Right.
And I did not hate on that, you know,
Right.
because when it's the job, I am a Puritan when it comes to what's right and what's wrong for hip hop. It's a bigger cause than myself. So if something is the right thing to do for hip hop, even if I know it's going to personally destroy me or destroy something or, you know, make someone not like me anymore or whatever it is, because I got in a huge fight with Mariah after that. Why are you playing that record? They stole it from us. You know what I'm saying? Like, why would you support that? Well, I'm sorry, but there's bigger things in this world than us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's right for the music. You know, well, then it would open this debate of, you think Jennifer Lopez is a good artist? No. I think the record is right for radio.
Yeah.
And for the culture, I can't be a divisive, or is that the word I'm looking for? A person that decides, you know, hey, this is cool here, but it's not cool over there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I have to be consistent in my decision making and respectful to the craft. 100%. You know, there's rules, there's codes, there's morals, there's ethics, there's all of these things that you have to live by if you're going to be a Puritan like that. Yeah. And you look at the mafia or anything like that. There was a code that you lived by, and there's either the code that you live by and die by, or you're not authentic. Well, I am the most authentic when or think the most authentic when I wake up every morning and say, what can I do to make this better? And then I ride with that. And I try to stay within these lines and rules. You know, they're unspoken. They're not like a set that I, wrote out one day. But, you know, if it's right for, the question that I always ask myself is, what is the ripple effect here? Is this right for the music? I am a humble servant to the music. That's it. So if it's right for hip hop and that I deem, then I'll do it. But I'm not, I don't mean that I'm the end all be all when it comes to decision making for hip hop. I'm not putting myself on a pedestal like that. I'm just saying that in that moment, if I think that it's right for the masses and right for the culture, then I will follow through, or I won't. But I will never hate on anybody. I will never be disgruntled towards anybody else. I will never say, you're doing this wrong, or, this, that, or whatever. I'll have an opinion of whether I like this record or like that record or think he won this or this, but it doesn't mean that I don't like the other person or wouldn't turn around and give them the same shot that I give the person that won. That's not for me to decide. It's for the people to decide. And that's what I love doing, is platforming things and then letting the public decide.
Yeah. No, and that's what made Power 106 so untouchable and influential. Is it was not this is Damizza's platform. This is Damizza's platform for hip-hop.
Yes, it was.
Well, it was for hip hop.
It was the people's platform, exactly. And that's where everybody is screwed up right now. Is it became, we were selfless. Our team, it wasn't just me. We had Big Boy, we had the Baker Boys, we had C-, we had Fuzzy, we had all of these great people that didn't care about nothing but hip hop. It wasn't about ratings. It wasn't about any of that. It was just about the music. There was a funny story, is when Dre and Snoop hit the stage in Hawaii and it was the reunion and Deep Cover came on, I was like, okay, my job's done. You guys are on stage. So I took my pass off and I went to the front row. And I was just sitting there rocking. And Dre looks down and sees me and he's like, and I'm like, and he's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, nothing. And he almost tripped over the monitor into the front row. I'm like, no, stop. It's okay. And I just turned around and left. So when the show was over, he comes down the stairs and he's like, so was the sound fucked up? What happened? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, you were trying to get my attention, in the middle of the thing. You're in the front row waving at me. I said, dude, I didn't book this because I wanted ratings or anything like that. I wanted to see the fucking show.
Hell yeah.
So I took my pass off and was just rocking in the front row. I didn't expect you to see me. You know what I mean? And he was like, I thought you were trying to get my attention because something was messed up. And I was like, no, I was just trying to enjoy the freaking party. You know what I mean? But
That's incredible. That's incredible.
that's, you know, in that moment, that's my life in a nutshell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm the biggest fan of the music and the passion for it. I get a little carried away sometimes. You know what I mean? But, you know, it's also remembering that I also am a 1,000-pound gorilla. So if I go running through a china shop, some shit's gonna break.
Yep.
So I've got to be really careful sometimes of what I say because I don't realize the influence sometimes. You know, yesterday or the day before, I was talking about how we hit 50,000 followers, and I said something about Fools Gone Wild, who I have the most respect for and I owe a lot to in this journey. Of getting people to see me and you know 300,000 views on one post that they supported. So you know I said something in the beginning of the video thinking that I was going along with the joke, which they didn't take personally, but some of the comments were like, you know, you're saying you called the guy a lame, you know what I mean, and this kind of stuff, and it caused kind of a debate. And people saying, you know, are you being disrespectful to a platform that helped you? And I've got to be really cognizant of some of the things that I say sometimes, because if you were to take it out of context and not know the backstory, that I know these guys, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I don't know who Little Mr. E is, but I'm just saying, you know, sometimes you can get caught in a situation where when you have a voice like mine that travels apparently, you can get caught out there for saying weird, you know, stuff. So I just got to be very careful sometimes of what I say because people will take it real seriously.
Yeah.
But that's the gift and the curse. I'm glad they take it seriously. So when I say play a fucking Lefty Gun Player, the Coyote record, the next day it happens, God bless them. You know what I mean? Like, and that's a gift. I'm not saying that as, hey, look at me, you know. Right. You know, I'm saying that as, yo, that means that we have a say, and what drives that say is the public. Those 50,000 followers we're talking about is what dictates what I do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like what they say in their comments and all of that kind of stuff is how I'm kind of guiding my direction. It's my Google Maps right now.
Sure.
So that's you know, my ADHD sometimes gets the best of me, so forgive me if I jump.
It's totally fine, man. It's totally fine. Like, if you hadn't taken the hiatus, and I think yours is a very unique situation because the hiatus you took was in a really weird time for the music industry. That was like the SoundCloud rap era and all this, you know, a whole new type of music and type of musician and everything. Do you think that you would be able to do everything you're doing right now and that you're about to do if you had stayed in the industry that whole time?
That's an interesting question. No one's ever asked me that before. I think that because I did so much in such a short period of time, that most people got so used to seeing these things happen that they didn't realize my effectiveness or what I did. Now, when I left and hip hop literally fell the fuck off, not just from me, but just the vibe of that.
Absolutely.
I think everybody kind of was scratching their head going, what happened here? And I think it took some time for what I did the last time around to sink in. And for people to think, oh, wait a minute, maybe he did do a lot of crazy shit. So I think it helped me. Now, personally, I didn't care.
Sure.
You know, my life was about taking care of Granny. Yeah. So a lot of the narratives, a lot of the rumors, a lot of the craziness, I didn't even hear because I just simply didn't care.
Sure.
Now, would I be able to do that? I couldn't tell you. You know what I mean? But I think it made it a little more difficult personally because I think some people forgot who I was. And I think some people also had been living on the narrative of they did that, not me, because I never addressed anything. So if somebody took credit for something, yeah, go ahead, bro. Yeah, you did that. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Right. Because you know
so
you did it, and anybody who's significant and important that needs to know you
well,
did
I
it.
didn't.
They,
I
they,
didn't even, I was talking to Jeff Garcia one day, the sports dude at 92.3, and this was a long time ago. And he's like, man, that was so crazy how you put Dre and Snoop together. And I was like, what? And he's like, you realize that you put Dre and Snoop together for 2001, right? And I was
Wow.
like, no. He goes, dude. He goes, like, you switched the dressing room door name. Snoop walked in, you switched the name so Dre would think that that was his dressing room, and literally opened the door and pushed him in. And that's how Dre and Snoop were in the same room together for the first time in 10 years. Like, you literally, like, pulled a quickie on everyone. And then when, they were at Powerhouse and Snoop's on stage performing, you walked up to Dr. Dre and handed him the microphone and said, Jam, play the record. And
Wow.
Jam was like, they talked, but dude, like, I don't think we're there yet. And I'm like, Jam, play the fucking record. And he goes, this is on you. And Dre's like, dude, what are you talking about? I'm like, come on, buddy, come on. And I literally pushed him on stage. And Snoop turns around and goes, they're playing deep covers. Dre, oh, shit, Dre, all right, let's do this.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And
wow.
the crowd, speaking of spontaneous and interaction, and that's what made hip hop great, is you didn't know that at the Snoop show that Dre was going to come out for the first time in 10 years, and they do deep cover and nothing but a G thing. And then Dre turns around, looks at me and goes, is that what you wanted, Damizza? I'm like, well, I mean, you could always go and record a new, shut up, I'm out of here. You know what I mean? Then, 2 or 3 days later, he calls me up and he says, yo, so the conversation started, but, what are we doing? And I was like, oh, like, you're open to this? And he's like, yeah, I just ain't talked to him in a while. So, of course, I go in, I see Snoop, and I'm like, hey, Dr. Dre wants to work with you again. And he's like, and I totally lied my ass off. But, I mean, he didn't say that, but I knew he was open to it. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, and he's like, well, yeah, I'll put him back on. And then I went and called Dre back, and I was like, hey, Dre, by the way, Snoop said he wants to work with you again. I told him the exact same thing, both of them. Right. And they both said the exact same thing. I'll put him back on. And then the next thing you know,
God, that's incredible.
Dre calls me and says, come to the studio. And I'm like, what? And he goes, I got something you need to hear.
Wow.
And I'm like, what? And he's like, okay. And he plays me the beat for Still DRE, and freaking Scott Storch is sitting there his first night going bling, 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 bling. And all the other stuff wasn't on there yet. So it was just the bling, 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 bling and the beat. And he's like, so do I send this to Jay-Z to write for us or what? And I'm like, what? He goes, is this the right beat? I'm sending it to Jay-Z.
Wow.
To write. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, that's a great beat. He goes, next thing I know, it calls me again and says, come to the studio. I'm like, yeah, okay. I walk in and still, and it's all done.
Still.
And he goes, don't play it yet, but here, and I've, waited for the call where he said, go ahead, play them. You know what I mean? But then we had Still DRE. So I was like,
so crazy. That's so crazy. Yeah. And you had a very personal relationship with Nate Dogg too, right?
Nate was one of my best friends on the planet.
Yeah.
And I miss Nate every day of my life. And shout out to Nige Hale, his son, Junior, who I talk to a lot. And I love those guys. There was a funny story I tell sometimes is Nige, when I met Nige and Junior, there was this kind of thing in the business, like, where is he? What is he doing? This negative stuff that I didn't know about that people were saying. And, this positive thing over here, some were saying, there was just all kinds of mixed stuff because I never addressed anything. And, especially the Mariah stuff in the book and, just all that kind of stuff as people were talking. And they didn't know how to approach me. You know what I mean? Like, are you for real? Did you really know my dad? All of these kind of things. So when they walked in, I played them a drop. we were doing, when we did the Baby Remix tape series, there was one we did with DJ Kaz, and shout out to DJ Kaz in Japan. And we did this one where I think it was in 2004, where I had all of these artists, Eminem, Snoop, Ice Cube, everybody did drops for this mixtape. Yo, Damizza, what are you doing? Put me on that mixtape. How can you do a mixtape without me? This kind of stuff. So I'm sitting there talking to Nate, and I hit record, and I dialed the number, and I called him, and we're having this conversation before we cut the drops, and we're joking around. And Nige and Nate look at each other, and they look at me, and they're like, what the fuck? And I'm like, yo, what's wrong? And they're like, dude, I've never heard someone joke with my father like that. Like,
wow.
I've never heard him talk like that. Like, you obviously were really good friends, because my dad was a real serious cat. Like, he didn't joke with anyone. And Nate was. Nate was very quiet and very serious, but we just had this sarcastic relationship from the day that we met. And he had the most integrity of any person I've ever met. And if he had your back, he had your back, and that was that.
Yeah.
And he had my back. So I will forever be indebted to Nate Dogg. Sure. Rest in peace.
That's amazing.
Because I did the title track for his album, my first freaking record, Where I Want to Be, that I really produced on my own. He was the first one to step up and say, I got you, Miz, let me do the hook, I mean, what can you say? Nate Dogg was Nate Dogg, in a class all its own.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
Imagine the West Coast landscape without Nate Dogg. It just...
You can't.
And it upsets me that people do not recognize his genius more.
Yeah.
And I hope that when you make this, that this is a clip that you cut off or cut into is discussion of Nate Dogg. Because what people do not realize about Nate Dogg is he bridged with the singing. He bridged that gap into gangster rap. He made it palatable. Hold up. Wait, smoke weed every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's fucking Nate Dogg, bro.
Yeah.
And then to be able to be diverse enough to do Where I Want to Be, and that's what he said one time to me is I said, yo, let's do a really hard gangster record. And he goes, Miz, I don't come to you for that. He goes, I do the feel-good music with you. I can do music in me with you. If I want a gangster rap record, I'll go to Dr. Dre. But I come to those when I want to be introspective and talk about what's important to me, then I'll come to you. And that was the biggest compliment I ever got.
Yeah.
Or one of the biggest.
Yeah.
I made music in me with you.
I love when you do your Nate Dogg voice. I've seen you do that. You have like the same inflection every time you talk about something he said.
Oh, listen, motherfucker, I'm gonna tell you right now, whoop-de-whoop. You know what I mean? Like, he was crazy, man. Nate was nuts. Yeah. I love Nate. Hey, Nate, try this. Ooh, do I look like New Edition to you, motherfucker? Well, hey, but try it. Shut up and rewind the tape and play it. Okay. Ooh, hit record where that spot is. Oh, so you're New Edition now? Okay. Sounds good, Nate. Yeah, fuck you, mix it. Send me a copy. You know what I mean? Like, give me a copy. I'm
hilarious.
I love Nate, man. We would have a blast, man. And he'd just drop in, like, I remember we were doing some project, and I had a beat up, and I had used let's see, who was it? Barbara Wilson, amazing singer, on the hook. It was, if you can't understand how I'm feeling, take a mile or walk a mile in my shoes. That one. So I had written that hook. I had her singing it, and he looks over at me and goes, "Who is that?" And I said, "Oh, it's so and so." I met her working on Music and Me, fucking moron. And he was like, "Fuck you, Damizza." No, I'm just kidding. So, and that's with all respect, and he goes, well, I need to get on that song. And I said, well, the hook is already done. He goes, you think I'm only a hook singer, motherfucker? I can do a verse. And I'm like, oh, well, go right ahead. Excuse me, Mr. Dog. You know what I mean? Like, and he went in and he just did the verse, which is
Wow.
one of the first times you've ever, or the only time you've ever heard Nate go in and do a verse
Yeah.
and not the hook. You know what I mean? I think it's the only record that Nate has ever been featured on where it's just a verse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, how am I going to clear this? You did 4 records on the album. They're saying I've hit my. I'll take care of clearing this one. You know what I mean? Like, that one's mine. You know what I mean? So, God bless him.
Incredible. And an interesting point you brought up, he said he came to you for that feel good, the introspective things. And I think that one of the major shifts in hip hop in the last 5-10 years is we've suddenly gone to this sad boy music.
It is what it is.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
do you think we need to change that to bring true hip hop back, or do you think that's just what it is now?
I think it isn't about the format. It's about the people. You know what I mean? We've got to get the sad people out of the mix. And what I mean by sad is, I mean pathetic. You know what I mean? These people that think a certain way that, tech, you've got these tech people that want everything to go into the box and be tech so they can, it's their world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they like music and they want it to be, but it can be AI driven and can do it all myself and blah, 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 so that I don't have to deal with anyone. You know what I mean? The Zoom call. I don't want to shake your hand. I don't want to see you. You know what I mean? Like, kill all of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Connections.
get people together.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about, is weeding out all of that. Look, there's room for AI. There's room for tech. But there's also room for organics. You're never going to eliminate the human being and the human spirit and passion. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we have to work. Look, America was founded on heavy debate and compromise. That word, compromise.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a compromise between digital and analog right now, until it goes all the way digital. There's a space for us all to work together. And that's what I'm fighting for, is working together, and it doesn't have to be one person wins. The political structure and the things that are going on in America right now, and just the influence of other countries and, trying to destroy us and this, that, and the other, that we forget that we're here together. And everything is compromised. When you walk into a restaurant and they say, do you want this or do you want that? Or do you want, can we compromise and can I get it done this way? You know what I mean? Like, everything is a negotiation. Everything.
Yep.
And getting away from the narrative where we have to be at each other's throats. Like, you and I could have this huge disagreement, but when we're on the field and we're playing ball, we could get along great and negotiate a compromise of either, what are the rules of engagement?
Yeah.
Let's compromise right there and know where we're standing. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then may the best man win, and then let's go have a beer afterwards.
Yes, absolutely. Because a difference in opinion doesn't mean you got to hate somebody.
Think.
Yeah.
That's how we are as human nature. You don't have to win. The ego is not really, it's all a facade. Everything in your head is a facade. It's what you construct as your construct. Do you know what I'm saying? So all you've got to do is take a step back and be, look, that dude ain't actually, he bleeds the same way I do. I mean, that's why, race and all of these other things, they just don't exist to me. Because if you were to get shot, we're all going to bleed the same stuff. Yep. Everything inside is the exact same if you were to turn yourself inside out. So the mentality of racism, the mentality of I can't do this or I can't do that, or putting limits on yourself or any of that stuff, it just doesn't exist to me. I was raised differently. Grandma always taught me that I could do anything that I ever wanted as long as I tried. And I did.
You sure did.
So why can't you? It's compromise even within yourself, is saying to yourself, yo, that's a task and I can do it, as opposed to, oh, I'm not going to make it. See, I told you I didn't make it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what the manifestation thing is it's not some magic thing where you go, voodoo, I want to talk to this person, and then they call.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's, I want to do this now. I'm going to do this, this, and this to empower that call.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what it's about.
Yeah. What advice would you give an independent artist coming up right now?
Don't listen to anything but yourself. And follow that instinct. You know, we have 3 voices in our head. We have the good voice that always leads us on the right path to the right thing. It may take a little bit longer. It may be a little bit more difficult, but you always make it, and you don't hit the rain. There's the other voice where gives you the shortcut, gives you the quick little holler, where you can, do it. You may succeed, you may fail, but it's not the best way to go. But it's the shortcut and blah, 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 blah. And you always end up in trouble, or you always end up with something bad that comes along with whatever you wanted. Then there's that third voice that sits there and goes, which I like to call the alien. Did you ever see Men in Black, where the little green guy's in the head and the thing opens up and the guy's sitting there doing that? Well, that's the alien. And the alien just negotiates between those 2 voices and then compromises on which one to go with. I always say, I'm the little alien. So I just always go with the voice, to my own detriment sometimes, of the right way to go.
Yeah.
And it may take longer, and it may be harder, and I may take some shots for it, but it always ends up working out. I would always tell an artist to follow that voice.
That's a good way to put it. No, I love that. The 3
and
voices.
Follow your passion. Because look, as we sit here and talk, everything is synergy. Everything is synergy and teamwork. Whether you want to believe it or not, I can do this all myself. No, you cannot.
Yeah.
Because if you were to put it out there, you'll be the only person listening to it.
Yep.
So you want to talk about an infinity loop? If you were the greatest artist in the world to yourself, then great, listen to your shit. But if you want other people to listen to it, you have to make synergy with them, which means that you have to either compromise on what you're delivering, or do what they want to hear.
Yeah.
But the best way to do that is to do what you want to hear and hope that other people like it.
Yeah.
And if you're true to yourself and don't go with the influences and, I have to get this chain and I have to talk about this and, Molly, Percocet, man, shut up. You know what I mean? Like, if that's what you're doing at the time, great. Eat, drink, dance, whatever. But, was it a funky groove that made everybody else in the party want to scream Molly, Percocet? You know what I mean? Like, right. But if you walk into a convention of sobriety or an AA freaking meeting and start yelling Molly, Percocet, they aren't going to fucking dance to it.
Right.
So you have to know your audience.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's what I kind of mean is know your audience, know what you're doing, and then super serve that audience and have fun doing it.
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. Before we end the interview, what's the best piece of advice you ever got coming up?
Coming up, or the best piece of advice, period?
Period.
Granny, this too shall pass is the best quote. Yeah. Now, as far as advice, I have an old, it's probably not the best one, but it's the first one that comes to mind. Is I have an old rocker buddy. His name is Terry Reed, and he's one of the most incredible. I'm the worst with phones. So first, Terry, I'm sorry. I'm the worst with phones, as you've noticed. I'm not the best at returning calls.
Sure.
I'm not the best. I just have this thing with the phone. I just don't like being on the phone, and my ADHD kicks in and all this kind of stuff. I like text and let's move on. But my friends, the one thing that they say about me is that I'm the worst when it comes to phones. But that being said, I love you, Terry. But Terry said to me one time, when in Rome, just be your fucking self.
Oof.
Instead of when in Rome, do what the Romans do.
Yeah. Yeah.
When in Rome, be your fucking self. And I think as long as you stay true to yourself, whatever is your path will show, it will be lit.
Yep. Yeah. Which I think
if you listen, and you just got to listen. That's how the universe works. If you just listen to everything as a guide, it will direct you to the right spot. You can kick, you can scream, you can fight, you can give it ideas, but the universe is going to do with you what it's going to do with you. And that's why I say I can never take credit for what I've done. I can never, it's a cross between grandma and the universe gave me grandma. So, you know what I mean? It's like I have been an instrument and a tool for whatever this universe is to bring eyes and ears to music in some way, shape, or form, or be a conduit for that. And that is I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I got the most amazing best friends in the world. My grandma, my buddy Bams, my family, Justin, TMK, Skippy, all of these great guys, Kid, all my friends that we've been through so much together that there's just no egos in my camp. I've been so lucky to have that, and grandma and all of that. And then I've been blessed with this journey of this music thing that continues to give me, great relationships. Even, we get along. I don't even like you and I get along. No, I'm just kidding. I got to be careful what I say. People take it too seriously. Right? I did not mean that. Scratch that. Reverse it. No. But, that's the thing, is I would just tell everybody to be themselves, and your journey will light your path.
Yeah.
The universe will light your path. Just be a good person. And you never know who you're talking to. One funny story is I was talking to this artist, or I was at this Clive Davis, he has those big parties every year, the Grammy party. Mm-hmm. I was there one year, and this mega artist is standing there, and I'm like, oh, shoot, I really want to meet that guy. Never met him. Very reclusive, blah, 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 blah. I walk up, and I go, hi, I'm dead. Yeah, whatever. And he walks away. And I was like, damn, what a bummer. You know what I mean? Right. This guy act like that. And so I was walking, back out, and I was kind of like, whatever. And then I see the artist talking to a mega producer that I know. And I'm just going to walk by and not say anything. And homie looks over at me and goes, Dame, come here. I want you to meet, this guy. And I'm like, and the artist turns around and looks at me, and he's got this horrified look on his face because the producer is one of his mentors, wow. And he goes, this is Damien from Power 106 if you ever want to get your record played. And the guy goes, dude, I'm sorry. I didn't know who you were.
Foot and mouth.
I looked at it, well, yeah. And I looked at him and I said, it shouldn't matter. You never know who you're talking to. I said, good luck on getting your record played, by the way. And I left.
Wow.
But I played the record. I'm not personal like that. Sure. You could, whatever. Sure. But, and everybody has a bad day. And it was a young artist. But I said, let that be a lesson to you. You know what I mean? Like, you never know who you're talking to. You know what I mean? Like this. We could sit here and have this interview. Who knows? Some, billionaire in Dubai might hear it and go, you know what? I want to empower this guy. Here's 10 million credit line.
Sure.
Please?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I appreciate your time this beautiful Saturday. Happy Cinco de Mayo in the country. I'm sure you're popping pistos and letting off fireworks.
All right, man. This has been Conversations with Character with Damien Damizza Young. He is a legend in his own right. Follow him
in my own mind.
Hit him up. Watch what he does. He's going to change the music industry as we know it today, just like he did in the 90s. I'll see y'all next time. Peace up.